Emotional content is filmed on Whadjuk Noongar land. This podcast acknowledges the traditional owners and custodians of country. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Come for the stories, stay for the connection. I'm your host, Amy Jane Brand, and this is your weekly dose of emotional content. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Emotional Content. Today's episode is a fun one. We are talking about one of my favourite topics of discussion, which is sex and faking orgasms. So if you are easily offended by things that are considered too much information, this might not be the episode for you, because I plan on diving absolutely balls deep into this episode, and it might be a little bit on the too much information side. If you listened to my episode a couple of weeks ago on 20 mistakes I made in my 20s, then you will know that I touched on this subject very lightly. And it was one of the things I listed as my biggest mistakes that I made back then, which was faking orgasms, something that I was so guilty of. Back in my 20s and when I first started dating, it was something that I did frequently, and I basically just considered sex as a competitive sport, how I like to put it. It was something that I found really performative, and I always focused on the other person being happy rather than my own pleasure. So this is way more common than we like to admit, and it can be a little bit awkward to talk about. So that's why I wanted to chat about it today. Last week on my stories, I asked how many of you have faked an orgasm, and the results that came through were as alarming as I thought they would be. 83% of you said you had faked an orgasm, and 17% of you have not faked one. It's good for some. It is good for that 17%. Unfortunately, myself and 83% of you have faked an orgasm at least once in your life. So we are going to be unpacking all of that. Another thing I haven't heard many people talk about is orgasm conditioning. And this actually popped up with a lot of you saying that you could only finish a certain way or with toys, certain positions, certain touches. And that is something that, bitch, I have personally been through. I was really conditioned to using a vibrator, and it was an absolute mission to get myself out of that habit, but there is ways around it, and I am going to share with you all of my tips and tricks on how to expand your horizons for orgasms. Also, before I start, a little PSA for my family. If any of you are listening right now, please switch off. I do not want this to be some awkward conversation at the Easter lunch or at Christmas. I don't want to be discussing this. I don't want awkward eye contact. Any of you, extended family, Frank's family, please, any of you, please turn off. This is not the episode I want you guys listening to. This is going to get way too TMI for you. So switch off. Catch me in the next episode. Love you so much. Appreciate you. But anyway, let's stop fucking around with this intro. And like I said, get absolutely balls deep into this episode. Let's face it, everybody wants to be good in bed, and there is so much pressure on being good. But who are we actually being good for? What does that even mean? Society and, let's be honest, porn have built the most extreme expectations of us to be the ultimate performer when it comes to the bedroom. And this is for both men and women, by the way. This isn't just women. Men are expected to last a lifetime. They're expected to flip you around in a million positions. They're expected to be extremely dominant and always know what they're doing. And women, well, we are expected to take it like a champ, no matter what position it is, moan like a porn star, and be multi-orgasmic even if it's not feeling good for us. So what does this end up creating? Well, firstly, if we're faking it all the time, men are never going to learn. And this is obviously from a heterosexual perspective, but this applies for anybody's sexual preference. Your partner has an element of expectations in the bedroom, and we all put that pressure on ourselves too to be extremely desirable and always have the other person we're intimate with walking away feeling amazing. So it's creating this whole cycle where everybody is just faking it in the hopes that they're perceived to be good in bed. But in reality, a lot of people are just going through the motions and completely neglecting their own pleasure. This is not the cycle that we want to be in, guys. And it's time that we speak up for our orgasms. And for this exact reason, why I'm hoping that whatever age you are, especially if you're younger than me in your 20s, that you don't make the same mistake that I did. Because it took me a long time to speak up for my own pleasure, and I don't really live in regret. I have regrets, but I don't live in them. But one thing that I do wish I did, like I said in that episode, is speak up and be an advocate for my own pleasure and stop constantly focusing on pleasing my partner only. So I'm going to tell you guys exactly why I started faking orgasms and why I made it such a priority in my life to be a great performer in the bedroom. Highlight the word performer. Because I was completely neglecting myself in the process. To be honest, I stem it down to when I was being bullied in school, primary school to high school, until I was suddenly perceived as better looking because I changed, the way I looked. I put fake tan on, I dyed my eyebrows, blah, blah, blah. I have spoken about this previously. Because of that bullying and that need to be perceived as beautiful by men, this is where it all began for me. I think when you get bullied about your appearance, this is like something that can just follow really quickly into your adult years. Looking back, it's something that shaped me in a lot of ways. And because I always wanted the approval of men, I wouldn't say I was a pick-me, but definitely a performer. Might as well have done porn. And I actually did consider doing porn. I ended up speaking to a few porn stars that I was friends with in LA and back on the Gold Coast when I first moved there. And that just shows how disconnected I was from my own personal intimacy at the time. My lack of connection to my own real pleasure is why I considered doing it. Going back to when I was younger and, even saying out loud that I wanted to be desired by men is just, I hate saying it out loud now. I hate it. But it was just growth that came with age on that one. And I think so many young girls feel the exact same way. You just want to fit in. When you sleep with somebody, you just want them to speak positively of their experience with you because people talk, especially boys when you're younger as well. They all fucking talk. Now I can imagine it being even worse, like growing up and all the expectations. I had sex when I was 14, almost 15. So I started having sex really young, obviously completely consensual with my boyfriend at the time who was of the right age as well. Don't worry. But I grew up very quickly and everyone that I was going to school with was pretty much doing it at that time as well. And I'm telling you right now, I was not great off the bat. Like no one is. You're literally just trying to figure yourself out. I remember the first time I actually had sex and I went home and I was chatting to my sister about it and I was like, yeah, I did it. And I just think it was shit. Like I was like, I just feel ick afterwards. Like I didn't enjoy the experience. It was with my boyfriend at the time. He ended up being a fucking pig. But anyway, wasted my virginity on him. But most people don't really have the best losing their virginity stories. If you do, that's amazing. I wish I saved it for someone much better. But when I first did it, I was like, I don't get it. I really don't understand. And, obviously I kept doing it and I was like really not getting much out of it. Anyway, by the time I was 16, I ended up getting my hands on a vibrator. And this completely changed things for me. I started understanding the things that I liked pretty quickly. And from there, I was pretty conditioned to using the vibrator. So when I was intimate with any other guys, it just wasn't standing up to what the vibrator could do. Obviously, when I was intimate with people, I never wanted to be considered difficult. And to just suddenly bring in a toy or a vibrator with me into an intimate situation was really considered quite taboo even back then, especially when you're like early into your sexual years and with guys that get really offended about the fucking vibrator. Like dudes that get offended by sex toys are such a fucking drainer. They are so painful. I just don't understand why you wouldn't want to see your partner get off and you have both things at the same time. It's fucking great. When you get a man that isn't insecure about their performance next to the vibrator, you're never going to be as good as the vibrator. You're not. But you can incorporate the two. Like, hello, I don't understand. I'm so sorry if you're with somebody that gets fucking offended by it. And if they do, maybe let them listen to this podcast because, guys, it's ridiculous. You want your woman satisfied? Incorporate the fucking toys if they want the toys. Have some fun. Try some toys out yourself. For the love of God, please just let your woman have the toy. There's no point being insecure about something that has battery life that will continue when you need to give up. Okay, there's just no point. So if you can't beat the vibrator, join the vibrator. Like, get experimenting, have some fun, stop being so fucking uptight, okay? I don't have this problem, but I have had this problem previously, and I will talk about that. I'm not going to say which boyfriend, but it was one of my earlier ones, but just in case people put two and two together, because I just, I don't want to bash the guy for this, but it's something that, it shaped me big time when it came to sexual intimacy and I guess me getting the courage to try and incorporate the toy. So at this point, I was still obviously only able to enjoy intimacy with the toy. And I was going through the motions of penetration, and penetration alone, guys, it doesn't do it for me. I actually did a poll on penetration and majority of you said that you need clit stimulation, clit stim for the win. But many of you agree with me on this. So I'm going through the motions of having sex with my boyfriend every couple of days, whenever we're doing it, whatever. And I'm never coming. So to combat the awkwardness of that, I started faking it. And I started trying to get really good at faking it. And honestly, I did. It isn't just a case of moaning and pretending. If you want to be really good at faking it, you want to be contracting those pelvic floor muscles as well. So it actually feels like a proper orgasm to them. Yes, I literally went to that extent. I made it so fucking believable that they never questioned it. And that is so fucking sad because for them to not even be questioning it, I'm building this huge wall of emotional disconnect from myself and from them around my own pleasure. And they think they're doing an incredible job while I'm walking away, having a shower and getting myself off in the shower afterwards. That's a bad cycle to be in. And that is exactly what happened. Now, I actually tried to incorporate my toy, my beloved little pink vibrator at the time, into our sex life. And this guy got offended by it, which made me shut down on my self-pleasure even more. And it made me feel so embarrassed and awkward and upset. Like, I don't think I ever really came back from that. And when we ended up breaking up, we actually had a conversation about it. And he knew, I didn't know this, right? He actually knew that I was getting myself off afterwards. And it was something that I thought I had kept completely secret. And the heartbreak that I actually felt in that moment when he told me that was like, from this experience, I know men need to be told, especially younger guys, how to do things or, otherwise they're just not going to learn, right? And every person is different. So if we're all lying all the time to be good performers in bed, then they don't even have a chance to learn. But the heartbreak that I felt from him never addressing it and just letting this big elephant be in the room, me having this shower and just thinking that he doesn't know. So he's more interested in his own pleasure by not addressing that and just being selfish and letting me just embarrassingly do that with him knowing when I think he doesn't. Like, oh my God, I don't think I ever fully got over that. Like, obviously I'm over it now, but when I was in my 20s, I would always remember that and just be like, holy fuck. The fact that we were together and you never brought it up is so sad. And unfortunately, that really solidified me continuing to fake it because I just never wanted to be in that position again. It took me a really long time to incorporate toys again until a couple of boyfriends after that. That's when it started becoming something that I could comfortably do. And by that time, going into my 20s, I was this curvy, blonde, bombshell glamour model that guys found really desiring. And I felt like I really had to keep up that expectation of just being basically considered a porn star in the bedroom. And I didn't realize the damage that that was doing to myself for years. Obviously, in relationship, incorporating toys and things like that, I was able to finish. But I never really felt like anyone had taken the time to really focus on me and my pleasure and consider finding ways outside of the toy to get me off, which is really sad. I didn't think about it too much at the time, and I never wanted to prioritize my own pleasure over theirs because I felt so awkward about it. I just wanted to always be someone that was, I guess, easy to be in bed with. Not easy to get in bed, but once in bed, it was an easy experience and it was this big multi-orgasmic fucking show, right? There's times as well, even with the toy, that if you're not feeling very happy or you're stressed, I was going through a lot of depression through those years as well, I would fake it then because it would just be too difficult for me to get there and I'd get frustrated. There's so many different reasons as to why I was faking it. And I felt like my pleasure was just always going to be put last. Until I met Frank, which I will go into later, but until I met Frank, I had never been with a man that was like, you know what, I want you to finish first. What do you mean? Like, you want me to finish first? Like, what? It was so unexpected and so life-changing at the same time. It's really obvious with him that he enjoys seeing a woman pleasured, like he gets pleasure from that. So having that reciprocated is really nice when you both like pleasing each other instead of it just being a one-way road, which so many of us in straight relationships experience, or straight casual sex. Oh my God, even more. Like, to be honest, I don't even really know why people exactly bother with casual sex, only because these stories I hear of men being so fucking selfish. And when I asked you guys on Instagram why you fake orgasms, the answers were so often because I was bored, because I was sick of it, because he was doing a terrible job, because it was a one-nighter and they never try. Like, I just feel like casual sex comes across like the biggest fucking waste of time. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, people are going to have other opinions on that. Even if you've got like a fuck buddy, somebody that you're seeing more frequently and you can get comfortable with, like, you don't have to be in a relationship. That's not what I'm saying. But casual one night stands, how often do they turn out fantastic? I will never forget this one time. So this was my third sexual partner. He was a little bit older than me. And this was just another thing that solidified why I was so intent on being a good performer in the bedroom and faking my orgasms, because this shit is so awkward if you don't fake it. Well, it was back then. Anyway, I go to this guy's house. We're chilling out. We end up having sex. He immediately wants me to go on top. Like, immediately. There's no real foreplay, nothing. I get on top and he expected me to be there the entire time. Like, no switching positions, no nothing, no effort on his behalf, literally just laid down and expected me to just do all the work the entire time. Now, keep in mind, I do not have much experience, and to be honest, I didn't have that much stamina. I was drinking, taking drugs, doing all kinds of shit back then. I wasn't fucking fit. I was definitely not considered fit at this point. And he expected me to ride him the whole time. Anyway, I ended up stopping because I was so fucking exhausted, hopped off, and also, side note, I don't really get pleasure from being on top. So I'm exhausted. I'm not enjoying it. I hop off. I'm done. I'm sweating. I feel like a warthog. I've been panting like a fucking dog. And he ends up turning around and immediately told me that I am shit in bed. Off the bat, straight away told me I am shit in bed. And I was just like so shocked by the experience because I'm thinking, what the fuck? Like, I didn't understand. One, this guy was wearing a t-shirt the whole time. So I could pick up that there was an insecurity there. But I have to say, it was quite the ick. Laying down, t-shirt on, nothing on the bottom, expecting me to jump on top, him do nothing. Like, ugh. Anyway, it makes me feel sick. It's just, there's something about just the dudes wearing a t-shirt and nothing underneath. It's for the girls to do that, not for the guys. That is appalling. Looking back, it was literally like absolutely disgusting. Anyway, after that, I was mortified. Like, to be told straight to your face that you're shit straight afterwards, hadn't even got my pants back on yet. I was like, okay, fuck you. Anyway, it turns out the whole reason why he was wearing a t-shirt was to cover a big scar that he had from when he had a surgery when he was younger or something. And that's absolutely fine. Like, that's all good. Like, if you feel like you need to wear that to make yourself feel more secure, that's fine. The only reason why I found it so icky is because he was literally expecting me to just jump on and do all the work. That was my third sexual partner telling me that I was shit in bed. So I made sure that I absolutely was not, and it just completely ingrained again why I needed to do better. I hope that guy is not doing that to women anymore. I really don't think he would be having much success in the bedroom if that's how he's still performing. If you've made it this far, congratulations. You definitely know far too much about my sex life now, and it's only going to get worse. So on that note, strap yourself in or strap it on, whatever you prefer, because we are only just getting started. Faking orgasms, pressure in bed, the orgasm gap, orgasm conditioning, these are all things that need to be talked about more instead of pretending like everyone is out there having 10 out of 10 orgasms and lying to ourselves. So why do you guys fake it? Why do we fake orgasms? What are the reasons behind this? You are obviously now well versed as to why I was faking it. So I am going to tell you some other reasons why people fake it, as well as your own that you wrote in. So societal conditioning and gender norms are a big reason as to why we fake it. Through movies, porn, media, social media, those expectations are a set standard with us through society. There is so many things that women are expected to do. You are supposed to be the glossy porn star goddess in the bedroom. And if you're not, where does that lead you? What happened to having sex without scream moaning or squirting? Squirting? All the power to you if you can squirt. I would like to be able to do it. Right now, it's not something that I can do. I have not mastered that. It has not been on my list of things to master. I am enjoying sex right now more than I ever have in my life. I guess I could potentially level it up by focusing on squirting. I wonder if this is making you guys feel uncomfortable and you're getting like jarred listening to this. I hope not. I hope this is okay, because I really just don't want to hold back in this episode. I just thought, why not? Because really we can all relate when it comes to sex. And there has never been a subject that you guys have written more in about. Sex is top tier emotional content, questions, answers, stories that comes through. So that is why we are doing this right now. Oh, another point that I have here. Women are often raised to prioritize their partner's pleasure over their own. That is so true, especially in some cultures as well, where there's like arranged marriages and stuff, you know, where it happens really young too. It's like really devastating thinking about that. I can also imagine that there would be a big level of prioritizing the man's pleasure where that happens, which is really sad. And I wonder if those women are ever in a position where they get to explore their own pleasure. Even in cultures where we're not having arranged marriages, we're still not naturally prioritizing our own pleasure. So what hope do we really have other than to break this fucking tragic cycle? If you ask me, it is tragic, because we should all be prioritizing our own pleasure, no matter what. We shouldn't be doing things that don't make us feel good. Pressure to be good in bed and make the other person feel confident. You guys wrote in so much about wanting your sexual partner to feel confident and good about themselves. And I found that really fascinating at how much we lack focusing that attention on ourselves as well. And I wonder how many of these partners that we have lied to would have preferred us to be honest. So one, they can learn, and two, they can connect with you on a deeper level, knowing that intimacy is enjoyable. I think it creates a real disconnect with ourselves and with our partners when we're not honest about it. And it often leads to us lying about other things in our lives in different areas, because we get so used to lying about something that is so fundamentally important in our lives. So it runs off into other things if you do it for long enough. Going back to prioritizing the way that somebody else feels, we don't want to get into the loop of doing that in other areas of our lives. There's like a lot of different levels as to where this can show up for us, and it could start all in the bedroom. Avoiding awkwardness or conflict. I think this is probably one of the main ones. It's something that you guys wrote in a lot as well. You just wanted to avoid the elephant in the room, avoid the conflict, avoid the awkwardness, unsure how to bring it up without offending the other person, especially if you've been doing it for a long time. There's people that were writing in being in marriages for 10 plus years and they had been faking it because they didn't want to offend their partner. And once you're in that loop of faking it for years, how do you suddenly turn around and be like, hey, I actually never liked this. Actually, just penetration does not get me off. Another point I have here is fear of making it seem like we are broken or difficult to please. This was my big one. Like, this was mine. I didn't want to be considered difficult in bed. I didn't want to be considered like I take way more effort than the next girl in bed. In long-term relationships, sometimes it feels easier to fake it rather than have the uncomfortable conversation. That fucking sucks, because I feel like in relationship is exactly when you need to be having those conversations. It's very different to casual sex. It's different to fuck buddies. It's so different. It's like you really want to have that open conversation in a relationship, especially if you're planning on getting married, having kids, which I don't personally have kids yet. I think Frank and I will potentially have one at some point. I'm stretching out the time on that as much as I can because I don't feel ready to yet. That's a whole nother conversation. But any of my friends that have kids or people I've spoken to have said that the sex life definitely takes a bit of a hit when you have a baby for multiple different reasons. So you really want to have a good line of communication when it comes to sex. You don't want to have to be just avoiding the fact that you can't come that day, whatever. Like, life gets in the way. There's times that I can't still because I'm stressed. Like, I get in my head about things, but it's not like a big deal if I can't. And it's just like, oh, I just can't get there. And honestly, intimacy doesn't always need to have the big orgasm. Obviously, we're talking about faking it and advocating for our own pleasure here, but I just want to put it out there that you don't actually have to reach climax every time you're intimate for it to be good, but you obviously want to be in a position where you are openly talking about your pleasure and it's not an awkward conversation if you're not getting there. So I'm going to run off some of the reasons why you guys fake orgasms, what you wrote in on Instagram. Some of them are really funny. To get them to stop, to end having sex with him, laugh my ass off, because I wanted it to end for the love of God, to get it over with, felt like I had to or it would have been awkward. I can't come from just penetration. Amen, sis. Neither can I. Neither can I. Clit stim for the win. Clit stim for the win. I just made a song on the spot. That is fucking diabolical. Then here's some more. For things to wrap up, it wasn't happening for me and I was just ready for it to be done and over with. So many more. Make it end, to end it, to get it over with, taking too long, wasn't into it. Ex-sex worker and now just can't be bothered. That one's actually really interesting to touch on. Going back to talking to the porn stars that I was friends with, they were so disconnected from their personal intimacy off camera compared to on camera. They had actually told me that it completely ruined their personal intimacy with partners. And that was something that I couldn't imagine happening for myself because I was always with a partner. Like, I liked being in relationship. So the thought of that really didn't align with me. And it's interesting to see an ex-sex worker and now just can't be bothered. So it's like, can't be bothered advocating for their own pleasure because they've spent so much time faking it for, work. Same as porn stars. So totally understand that. That was also a big one for the guys that I spoke to as well that were porn stars too, which is crazy because it's so much easier for them to get there and then it's like not enjoyable for them anymore. I don't know if it's the same for all porn stars, but from a lot of documentaries I've watched and being friends with some, it seems like a common consensus with that. I think another thing as well is if we get into leaving our own sexual pleasure for so long, we also don't end up exploring exactly what our pleasure is. When it's put aside, when it's not considered important, when it feels too difficult, when it's hard to face and figure out, especially when you're older as well, then we just put it aside completely and it kind of is left as a little thing that dies off to the side and you just try and ignore the elephant in the room. That's another thing that you can risk if you just leave it for so long. And, you know, you hear of people that are in marriages for years, 20, 30 years, and then they divorce and finally they start exploring their own sexuality and what actually pleases them. You hear of that stuff all the time. So if you can start prioritizing your sexual pleasure earlier in life, I think it's going to benefit you not just in the bedroom, but in a lot of different aspects of your life as well. Let's read off some more. He didn't know women. Wait, what? Oh my gosh, I didn't read this one. This one's crazy. He didn't know women could orgasm multiple ways. He just thought penetration would do it, but nope. Yeah, look, this is porn. This is porn's fault, and it's also our fault for not advocating for our own pleasure. So they're walking around uneducated, unsure what to do. It's a vicious cycle. Not advocating for our own pleasure creates a toxic cycle of shit like this. Okay, let's read a couple more. I realized he had fucking socks on. Nah, hard stop button. Oh my God, I love wearing socks sometimes, but I guess it's just like a girl wearing socks maybe. That's so funny, especially because there was another one in here that I reposted. Where was it? I got the ick halfway through when his toenail scratched my leg and wanted to get it over with. Dead. Screaming. That is fucked. Nothing worse than a hangnail slicing open your fucking calf mid-root. Are you kidding? Cut your stinking toenails. That is rancid. That would give me an ick as well. That would give me an ick. Absolutely not. The socks though, look, if it's covering the hangnail and it's in the moment, I would probably prefer the socks personally, but that's just me. Okay, let's read some more. Easier to fake it than to keep going. And there was actually another one in here that I wanted to highlight because I was like, yeah, this one would be a massive one, even just from like a survivor perspective. It wasn't enjoyable. It was a situation I couldn't easily get out of whilst keeping safe. Yeah, 100%. Like this one hit me like a bus. I felt that from being in a domestically violent relationship, which I don't feel 100% ready to talk about yet, but I will. I was in a very physically abusive relationship, and without going into too much detail, yeah, I can really resonate with that one because the consequences, if I didn't enjoy it, would be impacting my safety. I think so many women have gotten it over and done with, pretended to get themselves to safety, and I totally understand that. Like, fuck, when it comes to like a survival thing, absolutely, like do whatever you need to do to survive, to be safe. Like, I don't want people thinking that advocating for your pleasure means not needing to do it in survival situations. Like, you'll know when you need to do that type of thing. God hope that you don't. I don't want any woman, I don't want any person to be in that situation, but this shit does come up. So I wanted to save that one for touching on it here rather than on my stories. I was young and hadn't actually experienced one yet, but now I know and would never fake it. Yeah, amen to that, sis. I love that. I love that I will never fake it again energy because, yeah, me too. Absolutely me too. I wasn't confident at the time to tell him what I liked. Yeah, look, again, it just goes back to not feeling safe to talk about our own pleasure and not feeling confident about your own pleasure. One of the things that we tend to do when we don't advocate for our own pleasure is we don't explore it either. So we often don't know what we like, what we want, what gets us off, what doesn't, which is very important as well. So you have no idea. There is a multitude of reasons as to why we fake orgasms. I had a gay man post in here as well saying that the guy was shit and he didn't know what he was doing. He just wanted it over and done with. So it's not just women as well. Guys can fake it too. For me personally, it is mind over matter. Like, if my head is not in the game, I'm not going to get there. I'm not going to finish. So I very much need to be in a good headspace to be having sex and enjoying it. If I'm not, probably not going to get there. And that's just how I work. Okay, so let's talk about how faking orgasms actually affects us on all different kinds of levels. So first of all, there's the physical and emotional disconnect, which we have touched over briefly. So when it comes to the physical, you are conditioning your body incorrectly. If you constantly fake it, you're reinforcing the idea that certain types of stimulation are working for you when they actually aren't. This can make it harder for you to explore what genuinely feels good to you and reach orgasm in the future. So that's a really big one. You don't want to get into the pattern of trying to teach your brain that something feels good when it doesn't. That will lead to physical confusion for you. You also have diminished sexual satisfaction where your body isn't experiencing real pleasure. So over time, sex starts to feel performative rather than something special, which is obviously what happened to me. There was a huge physical and emotional disconnect for me with sex. So that was 100% me to a T. You're also lining yourself up for the potential of sexual dysfunction. Regularly faking it can make it harder for you to reach orgasm naturally, leading to frustration or something called anorgasmia, which is difficulty or inability to climax. When it comes to the emotional, you have a sense of authenticity that's lost within the relationship. If your partner thinks that they're pleasing you and then they're not, it's reaching a false sense of intimacy, which can lead to resentment, frustration, and feeling misunderstood in your sex life. And then you have the increased anxiety and guilt because you're faking it all the time. You're in a loop of lying and it just doesn't feel good all round. A lot of you wrote in saying that you felt guilty and just wanted to get it over and done with, but then you felt bad about it too. So this essentially can cause you more emotional stress and affect your self-esteem in the long run too. When we fake orgasms, we are reinforcing our own dissatisfaction. Remember that you are reinforcing it, you are enabling it, you are making it a standard for you to feel dissatisfied. That is not something you want in your life. You always want to advocate for yourself, whether it's sexually, whether it's emotionally, physically. You always want to advocate for your safety, for your best interest. You are your best friend and you need to look out for you. And that also comes with sexual intimacy as well. Faking our orgasms also creates a habit of ignoring our real desires. And again, this can travel into any aspect of our lives. So it's something to stay aware of. You don't want to lie about something this significant and then it starts traveling into other aspects of your life, which can very easily start to happen. This is a big one. If your partner thinks they are satisfying you when they are not, it stops sexual growth within your relationship. Remember that. You're not going to be exploring, you're not going to be playing, you're not going to be enjoying your sex. It's going to stay stagnant. It gives no opportunity for either of you to learn new things, explore new things. It will keep you in that box. You'll stop having sex altogether and then you'll be stuck there. You do not want to be doing that. You always want to grow with your partner, whether it's physically, emotionally. You always want that growth within relationships. So this is a huge key factor as to why we want to be advocating for our own pleasure. And it also leads to a real fear of vulnerability. Sexual intimacy is something that we share vulnerably with people. It is us at our most vulnerable. So that fear of vulnerability sexually, again, is going to create fear in other aspects of your life. And when you break through that fear of vulnerability in sex, emotionally, in whatever part of your life, it just sets you free. You're going to be tied down to this fear if you don't break through it. And once you do get through that, your sex is just going to get so much better. Like that fear of vulnerability is so freeing once you get through it. Even doing this podcast, fearing being so vulnerable with you guys, I've felt such a sense of freedom since doing it. And that applies to your sex life as well. So enough about why we do it. Let's go into how we break that cycle. What are the steps to living a life of pleasure and sexual intimacy? Well, firstly, babe, you've got to be honest with yourself. You've got to sit down and go, you know what? I want to come. To put it differently, you need to sit down and just be really honest with yourself. If you've been faking it for God knows how long, how much longer are you going to be continuing that? And are you curious about your own sexual pleasure? Are you curious about how much better it could actually be than what it is right now? I know it can be really daunting opening up that door to what do I actually like? What actually gets me off? What things do I find a real turn on? I know it can be confronting because I actually had to go there myself and take away all the performance and then think, okay, but what do I actually like? Like, I know what I like solo with a toy, but what feelings, what things could I potentially like with a partner? It was a little bit difficult to think about it because you get comfortable in faking it. There is comfort in pretending because you don't have to face it. And even when it's a conversation just with yourself, yeah, it can be a little bit difficult. It can feel a little bit daunting. But you can also reframe it as something fun and exciting, something that you get to do just with yourself to figure out what you would like intimately with a partner. If you are ready to tackle this issue head on, then I invite you to sit and have a good think about it. The next is to explore it. I would probably say trying it out solo first, seeing what you like, going from there. And then if you're in relationship and you're having that open conversation, that communication, then using it as a way to explore with them too. If you're in relationship and you're struggling with the idea of communicating your needs and you're worried about conflict within that communication, then I highly suggest listening to the episode before this about navigating conflict, because it really tells you how to sit down and have open discussion with your partner. This will be the perfect episode for you here. But to touch on it lightly, just making it a really safe environment and having a conversation more about how you want to explore with your partner rather than you're doing it wrong and I've hated it this whole time. So yeah, whatever you do, just don't talk about it where it makes them feel inadequate. Just coming from it at a different angle, like let's explore together. I'd love to try this. And going back to basics, I think is a really great place to start. Start normalizing sexual exploration. Go to a sex store by yourself. I mean, I went by myself when I was younger. I had no problem with it. But if it's a bit of a scary thing for you, throw yourself in there. Even if it's with a friend, just go explore, have some fun, go with your partner, make it an enjoyable thing. Like make it a new thing that you guys get to do together or you do with yourself. Educate yourself, listen to sexologists. There's absolutely no shame in learning. Like we've all got things to learn. There's so many other things I could learn. Oh my God. We never stop learning as humans. So there's absolutely no shame in learning at whatever age you are. And also I suggest trying new things without the added pressure of needing to reach climax. Try new things, have fun with it. Don't have that pressure where you need to finish every single time. Otherwise it's not considered good. If you're starting from basics, exploring what you like, you need to take it slow. You need to try things out. Have a little bit of this, try a little bit of that. It doesn't necessarily need to lead to orgasm. If it does, great. But otherwise, don't put that pressure on it for yourself or your partner, whether you're solo, whether you're in relationship. Take the pressure off and it will come naturally. No pun intended. So can you train your body to only climax a certain way? Well, the answer is yes. And it sounds pretty crazy. You might not have even realized that you have done this. It's something that I didn't realize was actually a thing. I actually thought something was wrong with me and toys were my only way that I could finish. And that was my experience all through my 20s. I had no idea that I had actually trained my body into that pattern, but I did. And I wanted to talk about it because so many of us probably don't even realize that's what we have done. When you have something that stimulates you over and over again a certain way, reaching that climax, it ends up making other sensations not do the same thing because you've totally conditioned yourself into only climaxing that one way for years. I did it for years, right? When it came to any stimulation with just hands, it never really hit the spot. And even when anyone went down on me, it was doable, but it felt so difficult. Your body basically just gets so used to one thing that over time it just associates that one thing, i.e. the vibrator, with orgasms. So you train yourself into doing it that certain way. I wonder if porn stars train themselves a certain way to orgasm as well within work. If you are a sex worker and that is a thing, could you please tell me? Because that's really interesting. Have you intentionally taught yourself to do it a certain way so that you are always getting pleasure when performing? That's a question I would love to know. So the good thing is you can actually get yourself out of this. Again, it comes back to that exploration we were talking about just before. You need to switch things up and try new positions. And you also need to give yourself a lot of time. You need to be relaxed. You need to get out of your head. If it's with a partner, like it was for me with Frank, he was doing things and I started realizing that actually really works. And the more comfortable that I was with him and the more that he was prioritizing my pleasure, I realized that there was different ways that I could actually finish. And I had no idea because I was never able to finish in those positions without toys with anyone else. I was so reliant on the toys, and he's always been super open to the use of toys. He was never threatened by them. He was all for it. Whereas I was never prioritized in previous relationships. They might have been okay with the toys, but it was never a priority to try new things or make my pleasure something that should happen first. And yeah, I honestly do believe that a man should pleasure a woman first because it is so much more difficult for us to get there in the first place. And, then we can continue the show with them to get them there. It's a much better pattern to be in rather than it just all being about them and maybe I could get there with a toy. It's just not it. It's not it. It should be about both people always. Obviously, you need to reduce your reliance on that method. So for me, taking the toy away, trying new things, and I managed to finish and I continued working on that. And now I don't rely on the toys, which is such a huge thing for me. And if you're in the same position as what I was, yeah, it takes time. And if you're doing it solo, get rid of the toy and start doing it manually. I know, annoying, so much more effort, takes so much more time. But if you are trying to get yourself out of that loop and that conditioning of just using toys, it is the way to do it. Time, effort, and just figuring out new things that you like, different sensations, and giving it the time that it deserves. So on that note, this was a big episode, but I am going to leave it there. I hope that talking about this has been an enjoyable experience for you all. And I really hope that being transparent about my own sex life and I guess being a little bit too much information for some people has actually been something that you can actually benefit from, and it empowers you to really start prioritizing your own pleasure. Because unless you find a unicorn like Frank, you are your biggest advocate for that pleasure. So this change for me in my life has made me a more confident person. I feel like I speak up for myself more. It's something that really does run into all different aspects of your life. And if you could figure this out when you're younger, it would be amazing. As always, I would absolutely love to hear more of your stories. So feel free to DM me on my personal, on the emotional content page, and on the website. You can submit a form telling me anything that you want me to discuss on the podcast, any of your stories, and any of your sexual exploration from this episode would be amazing to hear about. If you liked this conversation, I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts in a comment on Spotify. Let me know what you think, and I will continue to do more of these if you loved it. Thank you so much for listening. I love you guys so much, and I really hope that after listening to this, you start advocating for your own sexual pleasure. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please give it a share. You never know who might need a little emotional content in their life. For daily feel-good posts, follow @_emotional content on Instagram and TikTok. And don't forget to hit that follow button so you're notified every time a new episode drops. Your support means the absolute world to me.